Okay.
Do you have a cache tomorrow?
A cache? Yeah, he's probably.
You don't mind?
No. He said he was coming, so let's see if he's not outside. Charles Chickering is here.
I tell with names, so if I met you and don't know your name, sorry.
So I guess, yeah, ask who you didn't check in.
Christopher Mitchell, he'll be late. He'll be late, not even here. I'll just check.
So he'll send you a text when he arrives so you can open the door, I guess.
Second is Dave Snyder. Dave Snyder?
I think he's probably connected remotely, I would think.
Diego Moreno.
Nope. I think you're done, right?
Done with?
I think you're done.
Has anyone not been checked in or like briefly talked to me? More?
Ramsdale.
Did you get me first? I can't check. Anybody else? Aaron Ross or Russell Blake?
No. So somebody back here. So you're.
Logan.
All right. They changed the way we do the registration stuff, so they're complicating our lives now. We have to have an app. It's supposed to be easier, but I really like more the little piece of paper. It was more practical. All right, so just based on the recording, the GDevCon, I encourage you to go visit. It's going to be an independent conference, and you can go to the website and learn more about it, and it's going to be in September of 2018. One more thing that I want to make sure to remind everybody, if you go to ni.com and then do a search for LabVIEW Architects Forum, it's the first entry, and then you go there. You need to make sure that you are registered to receive notifications. When they change all the forums, they mess up all our subscriptions. So it might still say that you're subscribed, but then you're not getting the notifications. How did we say that we were going to do that, Aaron? You're the master on that. Or is it that you, I guess it's because I'm already signed in.
I don't remember. It's been a year.
Oh, but it's here. On the group options, you can then subscribe. And then that basically means that you're going to get notifications. So if not, just put it somewhere that you remember to come check it out. One of the things that I'm struggling with is I really would like to have more people present outside of the usual suspects. Although, Aaron, if you get the kudos next time, and the way we decide what presentations we have is we do a little kudos system here. So I put out the call out for the next meeting, and then people start putting subjects there, and then based on the number of kudos, we decide who's presenting. And like I told Dave earlier, if you don't want to present, but there's something that, oh, my connection is down. What do you mean my connection is down? Should I just, I didn't bring the dongle. You're still seeing it? Yeah. Okay. So if you wanna present about something and you're not sure, like you don't want to present, but there's a topic that you're interested in, just let us know, and I can go find someone. I'm pretty resourceful, so just let me know. It is frozen? Okay. So let me see what's going on. So I should be connected to internet, right? I have a problem with my shoulder, so I couldn't bring all my bag with all the dongles, and they don't have one for the Mac. So we've had this issue before. Do we have a presenter's computer? No. You think that probably? Well, the thing is that's when I'm not connected.
I can reclaim it.
Yeah. The problem it says that I'm not connected to the internet.
I can let you use mine if it fails.
Yeah, I think we.
You have a USB Ethernet dongle.
No, sorry. I normally carry a bunch of dongles, but I don't have a.
Here, I just turned on my hotspot. Why don't you try and connect to my phone, and we'll see if that works.
Let's see. Aaron's phone.
Go there.
I should probably not show the password.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Please work.
Okay, one connection. See if that allows you to
stream. Where is my app? Where did the join me go? Disconnecting. Connecting. There we go. It's clear now, right? There we go. One of these days, we're going to be able to start a meeting with no technical difficulties.
You're talking to a room full of engineers.
Yeah, I know.
Do you think we believe that?
I don't know. Like I said, we just need kind of like a little technical bulletin and process on how to. Oh, come on. Okay. So I think now I'm someone else. I'll check. Come on. So I am, how do I know who I am? Where is you? Here it is. Okay. Edit. So I'm Delacour, but I'll change it to Fab so you can find me. All right. Can you see me? All right. So if I share again, we should be good. Accept. Okay. All right. So can you see my presentation now?
Yes.
All right. Okay. And then how do I hide that? There we go. We're getting there. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, so this presentation, I wrote this presentation for Developers Day. So it was presented in several places in Europe and in the US by other people other than me. And I also presented here at the Dev Days in Austin. I made a small update, and it was basically adding contact for a new blog post that I found from Endigit that also mentions how to configure for source tree. My name is Fabiola de la Cueva, and I'm the Delacour founder, certified LabVIEW architect, certified LabVIEW embedded developer, CTI. I'm also LabVIEW champion. I'd like to joke that being a LabVIEW champion just means that we're willing to do marketing for free for NI. My team at Delacour, our team at Delacour, helps with software engineering process optimization, best practices training and implementation, architectural design. We also have a hardware side to the business, and we have customers worldwide. So even though we're a small company, we have customers in New Zealand, in Australia, in Europe, in different places in the US. For our products, has anybody here heard about the DQMH? All right, no? All right. So the DQMH is the Delacour Queue Message Handler. It's a free toolkit. You can go download it from the LabVIEW Tools Network, and it won Product of the Year on 2016. I've heard that it makes some people smile when they use it. So if you are lacking smiles at your workplace, you can go check it out. All right. So I've shown this cartoon before. It's a real case story. This happened to us. I was working with a third-party vendor, and I called them and I asked them, the new version introduced a bug. And they said, that's impossible. I never add bugs to new releases. So I asked him, can you tell me what changed? And he said, no, I changed what you asked me to change. And then I asked if he could revert to the previous version, because we were trying to figure out if the problem was with hardware or software. And he said, no, I only keep current code. So I asked, what method of source code control do you use? And he replied, why would I use source code control if I am a single developer? So before I keep going, how many people here are using source code control? All right, who is not using source code control? Why not? Okay, so you're yeah, that's a valid answer. Anybody else? No? All right, so when I did the presentation here, I actually had someone say that because they're single developers, Steve Watts says good programming practices have nothing to do with marital status. So if you are programming in LabVIEW and you're doing a project that's more than a VI that does acquire and analyze percent, you should be using source code control. Otherwise, you're playing with fire. And you'll get a sense a little bit of what it is. All right, so some of the things is kind of like information before the presentation. Source code control is also known as version control systems, source code management, or revision control system. In the LabVIEW world, we pretty much always call it source code control, so we kind of get used to doing that search term, but if you're Googling, it's just useful to know that there are these other terms. Every project, regardless of size, benefits from source code control. The way I decide whether it's going to go on source code or not is how many hours of your day you're willing to lose. An example I give is Luis, who works with me and also happens to be my husband, walks into my office one day and says, you know, the project is corrupted and I cannot open it. Can you help me save it? And I was like, of course, just go to the previous version of source code control and you're set to go. And he's like, about that. And you can imagine. So I said, well, how long have you been working on this? And he said, because I asked him why you don't have source code control. And he said, well, I didn't want to create a repository because it was a quick project. And I'm like, okay, how long have you been working on this? And he said 6 hours. And I'm like, okay, are you willing to lose 6 hours of your day? So point taken, he now uses source code control even for schematics and hardware-related stuff. I was kind and I did fix his project. I know I could have just let him learn a lesson. So what we're going to be talking about is centralized versus distributed source code control, and then branch merge versus code merge. There's two tools that ship with LabVIEW, LabVIEW Compare and LabVIEW Merge. So I'm going to tell, one of the things that I'm going to be repeating this later, I'm going to say it now. If you are requiring to use LabVIEW Compare and LabVIEW Merge on a daily basis and your source code control, that's a process of smell. Like, these tools are really to be used very rarely. So normally when I get a call or when I'm working with teams and they're like, no, but we really need to have it, I always ask, like, why? And, like, what is it that is driving you to that decision, right, that you need it? And sometimes it's because they're trying to apply processes used for text-based programming. LabVIEW VIs are binary. They're not text-based. And if you're having more than one LabVIEW developer working on the same VI, more than likely, the issue that you're having is your VI is too long, right? You don't have modularity. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then I'll just show you how to configure it if you really want to do it. I'll show you how to configure it. All right, so what is source code control? So that was one of the questions we had. To me, it's the most important technical asset for any software development team. Like, is that important? And when I started working as a consultant, I didn't know what source code control was. And the minute I learned it, it's so important that if a customer hires me to work with them and they refuse to use source code control, I will not work with them. That's just... All right, so keep track of every notification done to the code. Developers can travel back in time to see what the code looked like in the past, revert changes, or determine when a bug was installed. Examples of where I've used this is, customer says, hey, feature X, I remember it used to be here and I cannot see it anymore. So I can go to the VI where the feature was implemented and then show the history of the changes for that, and then look at the comments on the commit notes and be able to know, oh, look, I have a Jira note, a Jira case here that says, pointing on the commit note to a Jira case, that gives the decision that drove the customer to say that they didn't want that feature. So I can remind them of why we made that change. Other examples, too, is if you don't have access to the hardware. So I've had to, who here has developed code, like full applications, and then doesn't get to use the hardware until almost the application is done? Yeah, it's scary, right? So what we did with one customer that had such a thing was we would do very different commits at different steps on implementation. So when he got to the site, he could revert to the early commits and start testing one thing at a time to see where it would break. Of course, what did he do? He went to the latest, and it didn't work, and he still had to go and do the revert to figure out what is it that he broke, right? So I see it like a big zoom. Also, no more this, and this is actually based on reality. No customers were harmed in the gathering of this information, but please, don't be saving best one, better one. And I swear to God, I've seen this, the whole enchilada and beans, the whole enchilada, and then the month and the year. And this is really, this time for real, the whole enchilada, beans, rice, and margaritas. And the more condiments you see, it was the newest that you were supposed to use. Anybody doing name conventions like this? You don't want to admit it. Yeah. All right, poor Dave. It's his first time here, and he's like, I'm not coming back.
So just going back to the travel back in time point, I ran into this recently with a relatively new client who I've had for about a year, that I've done a couple of different small projects for them with a project I took over from a different company. And they sent me the entire code base, and we've done a couple of changes and a couple more changes and a couple more changes. And, you know, sometimes I'll send them the requested update, and it's a month, 2 months before they actually test it. And then 2 months later is when I get the bug report. And so about a month ago, actually no, 8 weeks ago, since their payment is now 4 weeks overdue, they called me. They called saying, "Hey, we've noticed this particular functionality doesn't appear to be working anymore." And I'm like, "Well, maybe we changed it when we changed this." And I looked at it and I'm like, "No." And then I'm like, let me look at this, and I was able to go back all the way to the first set of code I was handed off and make sure I never removed that feature. That feature was never in the
code to begin with, yeah.
At any point in time. And so whereas we modified similar functionality, and they had me remove the ability for users to invoke a zeroing of the sensor, they thought there was an auto zero whenever we started the acquisition, and I could prove no, it was never there.
And it just helps with sanity, right? It's like I could swear I had seen this, and then you can just go and really check if it had been there. Centralized source code control, you get a central copy of the project. It's in a repository. It will be typically in a server. I've worked with teams that they are very proud to tell me that they're using source code control, but their repository is on the same computer as the computer they're working on. Yeah, so what's the problem with that? If the hard drive gets attacked by aliens or whatever, you lose everything.
That's why I have cloud backup.
Yeah, but I mean, and I guess, well, there is a use for it. If you are going to be going offsite and you're using centralized repository, you really don't have a way to commit. So some people do keep the repository, but that's okay as long as you have a backup. All right. So developers commit their changes to a central location. Examples of tools that do this is CVS, SVN, Perforce. SVN is a free tool. Perforce is free up to 2 users, I think. 5 users. Okay.
And as an interesting side note, Perforce now refers to the company name, but what we used to call Perforce is now called Helix.
Helix. Okay. So what are the steps, the workflow? So you check out your working copy, check out, and then another team member checks out the copy. It could also be that one of those working copies is your development machine and another one is your manufacturer machine or whatever. Then a developer makes changes and commits. Other developers get the change by updating their copies. And if 2 developers make change, whoever gets their second needs to update first and resolve any conflicts. So what do I mean by that? If I make a commit right? And my peer here made a commit. When he gets to do the commit, he's going to get a big stop and say, no, you have conflicts. You have to deal with the conflicts. Then they deal with the conflicts and they do the commit. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Centralized source code control. So some of the disadvantages, these are my own humble opinion. You might differ. Developer requires a connection to the repository in order to commit, update, or read the log. So this, as a consultant, where I'm traveling to different sites, is definitely not a plus. When committing, they need to address conflicts right then and there. The little example that I show you here is not respectful of my workflow. The person that is ready to commit is now all of a sudden have to stop what they're doing, and instead of just doing a simple commit, now they have to be dealing with conflicts. So to me, that takes you out of the flow of what you were doing. This also leads to developers not committing often because their fear of conflicts breaking others' code. I know this could be addressed by branching, but then merging branches in SVN is kind of a pain. Has anybody done merging branches? Is it a pain? Well, compared to distributed.
Merging anything LabVIEW.
No. But you're not merging code. I'm just talking about, having multiple branches and people working on different.
Not terrible. As long as they don't touch.
Yeah, as long as they don't touch anything. So anyway, and the other answer I've gotten too from some of my customers is like, well, you just lock your code. I guess that's also another way of doing it. This is something that I observed with some of the companies that I work with. Their repositories tend to get too large. Because in centralized source code control, you can check out just a subset of the files. You don't have to get everything. So certain companies start using source code control more as a backup system. And believe it or not, I've seen companies that have a single repository, and all of their projects are on the same repository. So what's wrong with that picture? If you mess up the repository in anyhow, you're taking down everyone, right? And the other disadvantage is already LabVIEW repositories are going to be large because they have binary files. These just makes them larger unnecessarily. So I recommend that you have more a repository per project that you're working on, or per task, whatever you want to do, but don't have a single repository for the entire company. Even if you're a small team, it's not a good idea. The other thing too is, then if you are having release code, so if you build your code as package libraries, as pack libraries, or as VI packages, if you want the rest of the team calling the build code, right? When you have everything in the same repository, it's a lot easier for people to start calling the source code instead of calling the install code. And then managing the history of a project is difficult because it's combined with everything else. So you cannot just look at the log file and say, oh, this is what we have been doing for this project. This as a company, this is what we have been doing. Normally you don't want that. All right, any questions about, are you starting to get an idea of what source code control is, Dave? Yes, no. All right, distributed source code control. You get a central copy of the project is in a repository, same thing, typically a server. Each developer has a clone of the entire repository. So right there, it's already encouraging you to make small repositories. You wouldn't want to do the clone of the entire company repository. Developers commit their changes to a local repository and then push their changes to central location. So I made a little local repository there. So how it works, I clone on the different working stations, but now the working stations are called clones. In centralized, they were called working stations. And then the developer makes changes and commit as many times as needed to their local repositories. So this means I can be like really go easy on even be granular as to say, I'm going to commit 3 CIs or 5 minutes or 1 hour, depending on how long you want to be able to undo. So the workflow. Other developers pool, they get the change by pulling the changes into their local repository. And then when they're ready, they do the update. So a little issue that some of my customers that are migrating from using centralized to distributed that they have is that now it's a two-step process. If two developers make a change, whoever gets second, pools can choose to update, resolve any conflicts, and push when convenient. So this is the part that I love about distributed, that it is very respectful of my workflow. So two developers are pushing, somebody pulls, they can deal when they're ready, they commit, and then when they're ready, they can push. And I'm going to show this on a couple of videos later. So branch merge versus code merge. For the people that are at home, if you can mute your connections. All right. So a branch merge is when the files of a project have been modified in two separate branches and get combined into a single branch. Different developers can work on different branches. These may or may not involve merging code. Right? So it doesn't necessarily mean merging code. If I had one working in another, then we don't have to worry about that. Code merge, on the contrary, is when the same code file has been modified in two separate locations and they get combined into a final version of the code. So who guys use here LabVIEW Merge? Greg, you haven't used LabVIEW Merge? Yeah, okay. What was your experience like? I think you can mute everyone but me because there's somebody making noises. Okay, thank you. There you go. If they need to ask a question, we can unmute them later. All right. So what I'm going to show you, and all these videos are posted on YouTube, and I'll give you the link to how to get them. And I should have, yeah, okay, there we go. So Fabiola's machine, she's going to do the cloning process that we talked about. So she puts her location there, showing the details. She gets everything. Now on the gray machine, that's Jane's machine. She's doing a clone as well, but we're going to put that on Jane's folder. So both of them did the clone. Notice how as the clone is done, the folders appear. So what I'm going to do is obviously create a DQMH project. So we create a project, we commit it on Fabiola's machine, and she's going to put a nice comment here that she created an initial DQMH project, and she's going to commit that and add all the files to source code. Now that was the commit. Now we need to do the go to workbench and then do the push. Notice that the phase is set as draft, and as soon as I push, it will show it's public. So that means other can take it. All right, so it's doing that. It's public now. So now the gray machine, Jane, she can do a pull. And on the pool, she can actually see what Fabiola did. So she can see that 67 seconds ago and 51 seconds ago what happened. So she had added ignoring the .aliases and .lps files, and she also created new. So you can choose, Jane can choose to which commit she's updating to. So she just updated to that, and the only thing that you see there is the ignore file. When she chooses to update to revision 2, now she has the full LabVIEW folder in there, right? Okay. So now Jane is going to make a little modification, and she goes to Delacorp DQMH, add new DQMH module. That creates a new folder, and now she is ready to commit the new module. Now, one of the things she's saying here is please add it to the project in the next commit. So we're going to talk about that later. So she's adding that case, and then it's draft. As soon as she pushes, it goes to public. So we go back to Fabiola's machine. So Fabiola is going to pull, and she sees the message from Jen that we have to do add it to the project. So one of the things here is notice that I only have my clonable on my singleton, and as soon as I decide to update to Jane Doe's version, I get the Jane's folder. So this is something that I can do. I can go and see exactly how his system looked like when she was doing those commits. And what I'm going to do now is just add a new file. and it's the file that she asked. So added Jane's tester VI, and we can now push those changes. Goes from draft to public. And then several changes later, both Fabiola and Jane are working at the same time, but Jane is not ready to merge. So she knows that she's ready to do a push, and she pulls all the changes and realizes that Fabiola has been working on stuff and she has not pushed. You can see that her version there is draft. Okay? So what Jane is doing is, okay, let me update and see where Fabiola is at to see what is it that she did. So it says that she removed some labels. So I can take a peek and see what the code looks like without losing where I'm at on my development. So I can go and check and see that it shows hello world, and there's no hello world code. When I update to the final version where she added the hello world code, I can see that the hello world code has been added. So now I'm ready to go back to update to Jane's version, and then she can decide if she wants to do several more commits. So Jane is in the zone with this populating table code. She wants to finish this part before merging with Fabiola's code. So she's going to do one more commit before she deals with the merge. And then when she's ready, then she does the merge. And that's merging branches. That's not merging code. All right, so commit and then finish. And one of the things that I like about distributed source code control tools is that they have that map that I call it the subway that kind of shows you what happened in time, where everybody was at. So Fabiola pulls the latest changes. She can go and see what were the different comments of what Jane did, and you can see when they happen in time. And then she just needs to update. There's no need to merge because she has not done anything on her local machine. All right? So questions about this? This is using Tortoise HG, and it's using Mercurial. Okay? But it's very similar with Git. Now, Dave, you have never seen source code control. SVN is a lot easier than this, so it might be, and if you're working by yourself, might work better for you to do. I recommend distributed more for teams because of what I just showed you. So it can be done with SVN, but it's not as respectful. At least that's my opinion.
Distributed is really helpful if you're a contractor working outside of your main.
Yeah, that's another good use because you don't need to be connected to the internet. You can do all the commits to your local machine, and then when you go back to home base, you push to the repository.
And even if you're a single user, if you like to keep your main repository like as a backup on a server, it's really nice to have distributed.
Yeah.
Single user not leaving home much, that's quite nice.
Yeah, so Charles, just to repeat what Charles said, is that single user is really nice to also be able to have a whole copy of your repository and then do a backup of your repository. Makes it easier on distributed, right? All right, LabVIEW Compare. So LabVIEW Compare is equivalent to the Compare VI dialog box that you can find if you go to Tools, Compare VIs. It is available only in the LabVIEW Professional Development System, so if you have a student edition, you're not going to have it. Words like those find the difference game that we had as a kid, right? So it's like find the 5 differences. Now, notice that I said it's find the differences. It's not where's Waldo, okay? If you try to do comparing these VI, by the way, this is courtesy of, there's a on the forums, there's a Rob Goldberg's post where you can find examples that people have collected. So that's where I got this from. So if you try to make a change to this and then use LabVIEW Compare, either the tool is just going to crash, or the information that it gives you is not useful. So these LabVIEW Compare, you really want to use it when there are small changes. This is normally useful like when a bug was introduced. I want to compare what changed between version 24 and 25 to see what's different. Because sometimes it might be something that visually is not there. It might be even hidden behind another structure, right? And LabVIEW Compare is going to be. So you definitely want to do it with the same, different versions of the same VI. LabVIEW Merge is equivalent to the Merge VI dialog box. It is available only on the LabVIEW Professional Development System. Just like LabVIEW Compare, it works better with small changes on small block diagrams. If you try to do something crazy, like if you're adding, I think it will handle well adding a case to a case structure. But if you go from a state machine to a queue message handler and you want to merge those two things, good luck. All right, so let me talk about why is it that personally I don't think it's a big deal and that your tools need to be configured to use these tools. You want to avoid projects where block diagrams are too big. It's hard to read, and it also has other problems like we just saw. BIs that have too many responsibilities that are not cohesive. They're really hard to debug anyway, so you shouldn't be doing that. Developers working on the same BI at the same time via their own branches. That's asking for trouble. Using text merge tools to merge changes to library files. So one format are .lvleave, .lvclass, .lvproj. What is their format? It's an XML, except for when it's not. The LvProj has a section at the bottom for the build specification, right? All of that is binary information. It might be human readable if you know how to read binary, I guess. You can see it on a text file, but it is really gibberish. So you risk corrupting your file. So don't use text merge tools for those files. It is helpful to know what the XML schema is. How many of you have been able to fix bugs by going directly to the XML file? Yeah, we all. So it does work, but it definitely doesn't work with the merge tools.
There are certain things you can do with the XML, especially like on the LabVIEW project, that cannot be done.
Like, for example?
A really complex program that has a very complicated build, and I want to inspect the build. I cannot go in there and pick out all the existing destinations in a build using the Builder API. But I can go in there and pick it out using XML.
On the XML. So Cheryl's saying that there's information that sometimes we really cannot get from the automated tools, like the build spec cannot extract all the destinations, but he can extract it going to the XML file. Yeah, that's a good point. So
I'm twisting the arm of a certain gnat to see if I can get some of the features added.
Which I don't see anyone from an eye here. Modularize.
I'm here. Oh, hey.
There you go. That's your man. That's the person you want to bribe. Okay. So one of the things that you do want to do on your architecture, you want to modularize your code. You want to create VIs with a single responsibility. You want to distribute developers' workloads so they are not working on the same VI. And you saw in the video that I did something there where Fabiola was putting on the commit note. It's another Fabiola, right? Was putting in the commit note Jane was putting the commit note to Fabiola to add it to the project. This is one approach. I'm not saying that it's the approach, but this is several of my customers using that successfully. And what it is you assign an owner for the LVLeave, for the LV class, and for the project file. More than likely is if somebody's working on that class, they own that LV class. But if they have another person doing methods for them, for example, or messages in the case of Actor Framework, they don't commit the LV class. Now, has anybody heard about mindfulness? That's kind of like very popular thing, right? To be in present. So one of the things I'm going to invite you to do is do mindful commits. There's two things that are going to help you with that. One, separate source code from compile code. So why is it that I'm saying to separate source code from compile code? Because if you change one thing, you're not going to get 100 files affected, right? So that's one. And the second is, if you're making a couple of changes and you know exactly which VIs you committed, just commit those, right? At the end of the day, you can do a table and do a commit that says, I'm saving all because it might have had other things affected. If you do that, it is a lot easier to do the travel back in time. Does that make sense? Right? So if I just modified VI A, why am I going to commit the project and the LV class and the LV leave? Another typical one that's not using mindfulness is when you add a VI element to a library, what does the project say? It gets a dot. the dirty dot saying that it was changed. What does the project say when you ask what changed? An item was moved. An item was moved, but it was moving to a library, so you don't care, project. I don't need to save you. All right? So just food for thought. If you do that, this managing the project and the classes becomes a lot easier.
Well, Fabiola, another one that I've run into with the not separating from compiled code is that you accidentally do that, and you even write good notes that say I changed these VIs, but it affected these 91s. Well, except when you forgot to mention that I also changed this one that I completely forgot about.
Exactly.
So you never noted that it ever changed.
Yeah, that's another one too. When you don't have source code separated from compiled code, it's a lot harder to discern what is it that you change. So, and also committing often helps with that.
Yeah, I actually want to mention the LV class thing. I had a lot of issues the last 2 months where we have multiple developers trying to edit, and most of the time they're different guys. But there's one class we have that people keep adding properties to doing, and when you reload the new version, disk and LabVIEW's already open, it already has the memory, it doesn't load that file from memory. So one person will add a property, commit it, create.
Yes.
Next person will add a property, commit it, create. And they'll have latest when they do that, but LabVIEW don't have latest commit memory. So then all of a sudden they're committing previous property.
So what Craig is saying, if you have a class and you have multiple developers working with the same class, and they commit multiple, properties and stuff on different computers, and when they pull, if you have LabVIEW open with that class open, the changes might not show, might not load. All right. So it's a headache, and no matter so you choose your poison, right? So one way to do it is the way you guys are dealing with it, which probably means you have to close the project and then open it again. Yeah. So you have to close LabVIEW. All right. So the way I suggest dealing with that is you actually build that class. So instead of just committing it, you build it as a PPL or you build it as the IPM package, and then you have the others using the build code. So people are going to say, oh, but that's the headache of now I have to go install. But you're already having a headache anyway, right? The advantage of having a build PPL is that it's like having two source code control. You have a source code control for that project that involves just the class, and you can keep track of what are the different features and versions. That also means that if I, Craig, may introduce a bug, right, and you update to the latest version I did, instead of cursing my name, you just go okay, I'm going to create a case for Fabiola to go fix her mess. And in the meantime, I'll revert to the previous version, and I'll keep using that. So choose your poison. I like better the second one, but that means that I see developers going oh, I have to build again, right? I just need to make these little changes, and I have to build again.
I like those ideas. In our case, it's not the development, it's all executable testing. So you can't separate the output. Well, we kind of can now. There's a couple other guidance things there that say, well, okay, we'll avoid making, we'll avoid doing this separate compile code for stuff, even though it makes most of every code.
Yeah, but if you could be calling for the test and code, you could be calling from a build BIPM package, and it's still source. And it doesn't have the source separated from the compile code.
But then you have test and sending that to I mean, there's just so many other things happening.
Yeah.
It gets very good. There's also under your tools option, there's a checkbox that allows you to tell LabVIEW to not automatically save automatic changes.
Oh, yeah.
And so in those cases where you are changing a sub-VI and you need not to have, the separate code, using that still also helps prevent you from saying, oh, you're supposed to check out the 500 VIs above me. All the dependencies of and all the dependencies above me, and it prevents it from saving all of those changes. But the separate compiled code really helps when you're shifting between targets as well.
Yeah.
Preventatives are lots of
Yeah. So anyhow, there is different ways of of dealing with this. I've heard people say building into PPLs or building into BIPM is just adding another layer of source code. Why should I be doing that if I already have source code? Well, we already discussed some of the reasons of why you want to do that. One way to address the issues with test and 2 would be that when you build with BIPM, you add a prefix. So you make it really easy to identify if you are using the installed version or the source code version. If you're going to do that, actually, this is airing some dirty laundry. If you go to the Delacorp libraries, you'll see that the Delacorp prefix is everywhere. That was not really intended. We should have just put it in the LV class and the LV leave only, because otherwise, any time that you are doing an override, you have to override with the prefix as well. Yeah, well, it has the added marketing advantage that you have to see the Delacorp name, right? But that was not the intention. If you are going to do that, just add the prefix at the build specification in BIPM for the library and the class name.
The renaming is only available in the...
Yeah, it's only available in the Pro version, yeah. Yeah. But if you only have one build server, you only need one Pro version. All right. Find details on how to configure a third-party source code control provider. So where did I find all this information? Well, it's in the help, actually. Don't have to read the whole thing. The two sections that you care about is the LabVIEW Compare EXE. The argument that it's expecting is the absolute path to the VI, the absolute path to the second VI. And then there are these qualifiers. No at means do not compare. VI attributes. No FP means do not compare from panels. No FP means, yeah, and you get the idea, right? And these are explained on the help. So this is, and then for LabVIEW Merge, the same thing. The section that you care about is this. So optionally, you can set the path for the version of LabVIEW you want to use, if you have a specific one. If not, it's just, I think, just uses the one that's currently registered by Windows. So basically, the latest one that you have open. You have the absolute path. People try to get all knotted up on which one is base and which one is there and which one is your. If you're doing a merge, you already know which one is the one that you did, and you know which one is the one that the other person did, because you know which one were your changes. So don't worry about it. Just configure the tool, and it doesn't matter if you're merging from yours to theirs or from theirs to yours. It really is not that important. Okay, so the videos, and hopefully the videos are working on remotely for people remotely. But I guess they'll be able to see them.
Yeah. So are the videos local to your machine, or are you pulling them from the network? You're gonna be downloading them into my phone over to your computer.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know that we're gonna
yeah. So
get the performance.
I might have them in my computer.
The upload isn't good enough, regardless of the.
No, but he's getting like the download. I think that's what he's worried about.
Well, no, I'm on unlimited data plan.
Oh, okay.
I'm on family share, and my niece would keep blowing everybody's.
All right.
So my dad finally told my aunt, You are paying the difference for all of us to go to unlimited.
All right, so this is the demo on how to get Git and LabVIEW Compare configured. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to Tortoise Git, and then I'm gonna create a branch. So this is just feature 1 there, and now I have to go switch to that new branch that I just created. So I go to switch, feature 1. There we go, and then I'm gonna merge. And again, this is just a branch merge, not code merge. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add, as part of feature 1, we will add the show hello world code, right? So I create my constant, hello world, there you are. We save, and we're gonna commit this as feature 1. Okay, so I'm committing this to feature 1. I put my lovely notes, and then I do the commit. Right? Go commit. You can do it. There you go. All right. So it does the commit, and then we switch back to the master branch. And then on the master branch, you normally would not do development on the master branch, but bear with me here. We're going to do a little bit of development there just to show the merge tool. So if I go to main BI and then show the block diagram, and I am going to add a timeout event to the code in the master branch. All right. So I'm adding an event case, the application, timeout, okay. And there's no show hello world code here. So we'll make sure that we don't have a broken arrow. We'll be nice to the other developers. Wait for event, save, and we're going to commit. Now you're noticing that I'm doing all the commits and everything directly from Windows Explorer. There are tools that you can download to work with the project, but I'm just used to doing it this way. So I'm committing to the master, add a timeout event case, click commit, and close. And now we're going to do a Tortoise Merge. So for doing the Tortoise Merge, I'm going to go to Tortoise Get and then click on Merge. And I think I skip a video now that I'm thinking about it. So merge current branch master with branch feature 1. And we have same BI has changes in both branches, so I need to resolve. So I'm going to click on the resolve button there to resolve my conflicts. Who said engineers could not solve conflicts or could not commit, right? Engineers can commit. We're going to go edit the conflicts. And because we already configure it to use merge, it automatically opens LabVIEW Merge. So now I'm able to see the front panel of both BIs as well as their block diagrams. And I have these little merge BIs report on the bottom that shows which version of which BI I'm using. Now, because the change was small, I can just decide, and it tells you which one you're using, right? Like, for example, there it's saying that the difference is in which case is visible. And you can choose, there's a button on the right, and you can choose which version is the one that you want to use. All right, so that's that one. Let me see, because I think I missed. Oh well, it's gonna keep doing going through all the cases, making sure that we have accepted all the merging things, and then we'll.
So how often do you actually use merge?
0 times. It's not a daily thing. Like I said, I actually merge. I probably have never used it. It's a lot faster for me to go and see what were the changes that I just did, or talk to the other person and then add them manually. LabVIEW Compare I have used for bugs, finding bugs, introduction stuff like that.
I use Compare a lot. Merge I've always found it easier to avoid.
Yeah.
Don't have developers editing the API, or if it does happen, fixing it manually.
Yeah, so, all right. Oh, lovely. I'm cursed. Ay. All right, so slideshow from not from current slide. Does he know where I stopped? Yes, view. So we already do that, we did that, we did. How to configure, this is the one that we didn't see, okay, from current slide. All right, so I'm not gonna show all the videos because we're already running out of time, but just to kind of show you what the videos, if you go after the fact and watch them. So go to the main BI. So we have a simple change button text. Oh, this is the same thing. I don't know why it's showing. We'll do it later. Like you can. All right. So what are the global settings to configure LabVIEW Merge for Mercurial? So in Mercurial, unfortunately, you cannot configure LabVIEW Compare. Now, the Ndigit blog post talks about how to do it with with source tree. So I'm curious to know if that would help with Mercurial. How do I do it in that case? I update and then maybe save the BI with a different name and then do the compare tool that way. And again, the patterns that you can merge is .bi, .bit, .ctl. So again, you'll be able to watch the the videos at your own leisure on how to configure. Distributed source code control does not require a connection to a central repository all the time. Every team member has a complete copy of the repository, including the entire metadata. So this means that so you want to have, even if you have this, you want to have backups of the repository. But one of this, it's not as critical, right? Because every member of the team, if they have been doing pulls daily, everybody has a backup. So you go from only having a single backup to having every member on the team being able to recover the code. Avoid working on the same BI, different branches. Overuse of the LabVIEW Compare and LabVIEW Merge is a symptom of an architecture that is not modular enough, or a process that has multiple developers working on the same code at the same time. I normally, before, if a customer comes, and I've had this situation, I think there was a situation where somebody from Japan was like wanting us to help them configure. And I really was like, you really don't need it that much. And they were like, no, we need it. We're going to need it. We're going to be using it daily. And we started looking more at the process, and it was really more of a process issue. We still configure them to use LabVIEW Compare, but if we ask the question that Craig asked, they say they use it rarely. All right, so references. I did a blog post couple years ago called Every Developer Needs a Time Machine. So I recommend that one for you, Dave, because that one goes in a little bit more on the basic, on introduction, and it shows you how to configure SVN, which SVN is a lot more straightforward to use. There's the blog from NDigit. So if you do a search for source tree, they show how to configure a source tree to use these tools with Git. If you want more of an overall of what is version control, Atlassian, those are the guys that make Bitbucket, Jira, have a really nice tutorial on that. As far as having tools that you can use from the project, there is Git and Mercurial user groups at the forums. So, and the videos that I use for this presentation are at bit.ly LBSEC, and I should be putting, I just don't want to commit, but I should be posting soon a blog post of this presentation and all the videos to make it easier to follow. So, any questions? No?
Do you have any recommendations for providers for your distributed?
Providers, I use Bitbucket. So personally, at Delaware, we use Bitbucket, and it is because we use Jira, and it just starts to be really nice to have a platform. Right, Harvest that we use for our tracking our time can be plugged into Jira. Bitbucket and Jira can be connected together. So when you do a commit, if you put in your notes hashtag and the Jira case, it shows up on the activity track of that case. So it connects really nicely. I've used GitHub too, and I'm sure that you probably can do some of those hooks as well with Jira. It was just kind of easy. We were already with Jira. We just went with Bitbucket. For SVN, I use Project Locker. It's not a big, it's just a small company out there, but it has worked really well for SVN. It's a lot easier to host SVN on your own company, so most of the people can just put their own repository. For hosting your own Git or Mercurial repository, you can do it, but it requires a little bit more of IT setup. So
Either one pretty easy to do. The main advantage is going outside using another company, especially like in your position where you're your own contractor. If her house burns down, she goes out to Best Buy, buys another computer, signs on to her project, and starts working from a hotel while she's figuring out.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're hosting your own remote, you're screwed.
Or unless you have remote backup and all that stuff, but yeah, as far as security, I think you use SSH. It's probably not, the biggest protection, but it's protection.
SSH is good.
Yeah. So it is better than not having anything. So, but those are. I don't know if anybody has heard of other providers that you like.
I work in a large company. We have multiple off-site backups. Mm-hmm.
But any other, like, besides GitHub, Git, there's GitLab too. GitLab is another one.
And I only use GitHub for security projects.
all around this stuff is perforce, so I went from like a report doing something at the end, and then trying to do something perforce, finding it really difficult, but then after you get over learning something, it's just as powerful as anything else.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed, like when I work with teams and we get like, we convince 6 out of the 7 that we're going to be using distributed. And there's always this one guy, right, that's like, but I liked it better when we had SVN because it was a single step. I keep forgetting to push. I keep forgetting to pull. Both the source tree tool and the Tortoise HG and the Tortoise Git tools allow you to configure them to do a single step. So it basically forces the tool to work as a centralized. When you do a commit, it does a commit and a push. When you do a pull, it doesn't pull and an update. And I find that it's just a matter of time of that other person seeing how the rest of the team works, and eventually they remove the training wheels, right? But it's a good way of getting buy-in by different people. Or if you're a single developer and you just really don't care about the 2-step.
Source tree is actually nice because that's just a little checkbox. Do you want to push or not?
Yeah.
And it's your choice right there.
Yeah. That's true. Anyway,
One other thing that you didn't mention, or you did, I missed it. Always make sure you comment.
yeah.
Nothing more frustrating than going back to your repo.
Yeah.
You have 50 versions here and 1 comment.
Yeah. What changed? Well, no, I'm going to say this. Yes, definitely do commits and do commits that actually mean something, not like made a change. One thing that I'm going to say is having those multiple commits with no comments. I'd rather have that than have the guy that commits at the end of the week, right? And then there's really no history of what changed between versions. Because if you have commits without changes and you only have a handful of VIs, you have other tools. You can do the compares. There's other ways. But if they didn't do that commit, that opportunity is gone. So if I have a fight to fight, the battle that I pick first is that they commit often, and then the next one is make comments that are useful.
That's actually useful if we have a scenario where you can't test it locally.
Yeah.
And you're trying to open it in a black box. And I think this is going to work. I've done something where I fixed it, then I thought, I can fix it better this next way. So I committed the first fix, and I committed the second fix. Then overnight, the overseas person was using it, and it didn't work the second fix. So you reverted back to my previous fix, which I thought was worse, but actually worked.
Yeah.
It was an interesting situation where, because I had given both commits, they were able to get better.
Option 1, option 2. Which one do you want? So yeah, but definitely commits without comments is like a movie without a plot.
In certain circumstances, can be worse than the file name chain that gets left behind.
Yeah.
But at least usually they try to put something in the file name that says, oh, this is what's different. Lack of comments, you'll usually end up cursing yourself because of